Welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name is Christine Lazinski and I'm the leader of education programs here at Schools Plus. This webinar is for schools wishing to submit an expression of interest to our upcoming Smart Giving round. This is open to all schools nationwide who fit our criteria. The purpose of today's webinar is to give you tips to help you submit a great expression of interest through the Smart Giving program. Joining me on this webinar today is Jeff Bruce. Jeff is the lead coach here at Schools Plus and has extensive experience with the New South Wales Department of Education, including many years as a principal and a director of schools.
Hello, everybody.
Also joining me is Beth Gibbons. Beth is our Schools Operations Manager here at Schools Plus and has a wealth of knowledge in the not-for-profit sector, as well as many years of experience within our organisation.
Hi, everyone.
Now that we've all said hello, we're going to turn off our videos so you can enjoy the benefit of focusing on the key information in the following slides. If I may give you a brief overview of us here at Schools Plus, our goal is to connect schools with donors. We are a registered charity with a DGR1 certificate, which allows donors the benefits of a tax incentive for donating money. This makes donating to schools easier for larger organisations. In 2011, you would be familiar with the Gonski Review. A recommendation from the review was that an organisation should be established to allow schools greater access to philanthropic support. And so we were born. We began supporting schools directly in 2015. Since then, we've funded more than 728 projects, benefited nearly 233,000 students across the country, and have contributed more than $17 million into the education systems. Let me give you an overview of the Smart Giving program. Schools apply for grant funding to Schools Plus to support projects in impact areas born from school need. We're not talking about shade cloths, court upgrades and playgrounds. There are other organisations that can support schools with these needs. We also do not fund projects that are covered by core funding from the department, for example, maintenance and building projects or permanently staffed positions. We are looking for projects that are embedded in schools' longer-term strategy, supported by school leadership and are researched and evidence-based. Examples of projects that we have supported in the past included initiatives to re-engage a targeted group of students in their education, through to teacher professional development in areas like numeracy and literacy, through to STEM projects that introduce robotics and codings to certain year levels. We support wellbeing and resiliency projects to build student and community wellbeing.
So Chris has given us a good outline of the sorts of funding projects that we fund. If I could draw your attention now to what we actually have available and how we can support you. Firstly, we could support you as an individual school with a project that would be in the $20,000 to $30,000 range. Or if you're part of a cluster of schools that would like to apply for a larger project, we'd have up to $60,000 for funding available for that. Now, both of these, the individual school and the cluster of schools projects, would be 12-month projects. If you need the support of one of our members of staff here to help you with the putting together your expression of interest, we have available staff who can help you with that, and we'd ask you to contact Schools Plus to arrange a time that we can connect with you, and they will guide you through that first phase of the process. The funding is immediate, so we're looking to get these projects up and running as soon as possible. And if I could draw your attention to the last dot point there, and this is a really important part of the work we do as an organisation. Not only do we provide schools with the funding, but Depending on your project, we can also provide you with the services of an expert coach. We have a team of education experts, most of whom have either been principals or directors or experts in specific fields related to education, who can provide the role of a coach in the project design, the delivery, the evaluation of the projects, either through the conventional role of a coach or as a mentor or a critical friend. So we would determine, depending upon the complexity of the project, whether or not your project would be suitable for that sort of support.
Okay, great. So now moving on to the eligibility criteria. So there are a few points around this, and the key and most important one is around the school's ICSEA values. So ICSEA is the Index of Community Socio-Educational Advantage, and we require schools who are applying for support to Schools Plus to have an ICSEA value below 1,000. You can have a look on the My School website, the link is there, to see your school's profile and to see what your value is. If you have a value of 0 on the ICSEA scale and are a special school, you are eligible for support, but please get in touch with us at Schools Plus if you're unsure, and we'll be happy to help you. It's only one project can apply per school or school cluster can apply, and if your schools receive funding through a program within the last 12 months through Schools Plus, so whether it's a Smart Giving or a Commonwealth Bank Teaching Award, please get in touch with us at Schools Plus to discuss your eligibility. So schools@schoolsplus.org.au. So what types of projects can be supported? So in response to the current situation facing schools and the need for a quick response to some crisis-related challenges, we've actually introduced a two-step approach to selecting projects this year. So there are two types of projects. So the project type 1, which is what you can see here, are projects that are going to start in term 4, 2020. And these ones are in direct response to your crisis recovery plan, so whether that's bushfire or COVID-19, and they will address those immediate needs. And we're encouraging schools to please apply for this project type by the 14th of August, so we can prioritise the assessment and fast track that so that the funds can be with you and your school and you can begin your project in term 4. The second type of project is project type 2, and these are projects that are going to be long term that will start in term 1, 2020, and these are going to be aimed to meet your long-term strategic schools plan. All applications will close on the 11th of September, and with these we are keen to support projects that link to your existing plan, have that big impact within the school, and have that significant transformational change. So what happens next? So the round opens on Monday, the 20th of July at 9 AM Australian Eastern Standard Time. As mentioned, we're encouraging schools to apply if they are applying for crisis-related support where projects are starting in term 4 of this year, to submit their EOI by Friday, August the 14th. And the round will completely close and all applications are due by September 11 at midnight. So once applications are submitted, we will do the assessments of those, and where you can see projects type 1 starting, you'll be notified in September if your application is successful, and we will aim to transfer those funds to the schools in term 4. If your project that's starting in term 1 and or beyond, you'll be notified in October whether you can progress to the next round. And the next round is a phone interview, and we'll schedule that with you. It's not a new form to fill in, it's really just a chance for us to seek additional information about your project that we might need for ourselves or for donors and our understanding. So we'll send you those questions beforehand. And then that will move into that final selection phase. And as mentioned, funds for project type 1 will be distributed in term 4, so those projects can kick off straight away. And funds for project type 2, where you are starting in term 1, will be transferred at that point as well.
So let's have a look at some general tips, and we realise that some of you have previously submitted applications for different grants, and for others this may be the first time that you're submitting an EOI of this nature. So we've put together just a few tips to perhaps help you through the process. First and foremost is to just make sure you read the guidelines. We've tried to make the application process as simple as possible. So if you read the guidelines carefully, it will give you a step-by-step process by which you can put your application together, and you're making sure you're covering all of the information that we require. Obviously, make sure you're eligible. As Beth said, the ICSEA value of your school will determine your eligibility, as well as previous engagement with Schools Pass, and to check your eligibility before you proceed any further. Really important, can you make sure in the application or the EOI as we're calling it, that you're very clear as to what your intention is with this project. Remember, it's going to be read by a number of people who will make the evaluation and assessment as to whether or not the project is one that we can direct some funding to. So be clear, be concise. You need to be succinct with it. It's a fairly limited word or fairly brief word limit. Most of the questions are either 150 to 200 words long, so succinct responses are really important there. But very important, of course, is to make sure you put forward a really compelling case as to why your project needs to be funded, and be very specific about what it is that you're seeking to do. Try to put a budget or make sure you're putting a budget that's clear. It doesn't have to have the fine detail, but it needs to give us a general image or a general impression of how the funding would be spent and allocated. And of course, as Beth's already given you the timelines, make sure you submit the EOI on time.
And now we're going to look at some elements in the expression of interest itself. So to compose a sound expression of interest, there are some key questions you should be able to clearly answer. So we're going to take you through those points now. When we look initially at your application, this is an ideal opportunity for you as a school to give us some context and background about your school. This is helpful for us in determining your project success, as well as for donors. It's useful for donors to know a little bit about your school. You might include student and community demographics, some results that you've had and what you wish to improve on, whether it be around wellbeing, you might have some data there, and talk a little bit about the teaching staff and practice. In particular, if your project is crisis related, you may wish to add some detail about how you're addressing your school's recovery. Another key important point in here is everybody ready to make that change, and are they on board? So staff agreement or majority staff agreement on the initiative that you're about to embark on is very important. You might want to explain some background work and some lead up you've done on this.
Thanks, Chris. So in that first question, you identified what the change was that you wanted to bring about. In this question, we ask you to consider, why is it important that you need to bring this change about? What's the priorities that you've put on it? And how are you actually going to go about doing this? Will it be something that can provide some opportunities for further change and further growth and further evolution that will be there beyond the project? The long-term difference is the key point here. So we're looking for projects that have got evidence that they can bring about a shift in the culture of the school that will have a long-term positive impact upon student learning outcomes. in this question, we ask you to consider how you're going to know if the goals that you've set yourself are actually being achieved and what progress you're making towards those goals. Now, again, depending upon the complexity of the project, you're going to have available to you a range of data that's going to help you to make those judgments and make those assessments. Those schools that will have coaching support will be provided with a set of rubrics that will enable you to make some really strong observations and track the change that's happening within the project and within the life of the project. Essentially, what we're asking you to consider is, what is your aspiration? Once the project has been implemented, what's going to be different? How will you know that that difference has happened? And how is that going to affect the way in which the mindset, the knowledge, the skills, and the practice in your schools is going to look in the months and years ahead?
Thanks, Jeff. Another important element is around the element of sustainability, and this is something that we would like you to address in your application. So how will your initiative or your project be sustained into the future? For example, if you utilise part of the funding for additional teacher time to make a project work, what's the consideration for where funding will come from after the funding period with Schools Plus draws to a close? It is hoped that your project will grow and develop and be embedded into your school long after our funding draws to a close. So during assessment and selection of projects, a low priority will be assigned to any applications that do not address the sustainability element.
Okay, so just to wrap up here, we're going to pop our videos back on so that we can say again. So look, importantly, as mentioned before, read the guidelines. They're available on our Schools Plus website under the Smart Giving page. The guidelines contain some further information and some more detail around those questions that we'll be asking the EOI, with some great hints to help you put that successful EOI in. And in the guidelines as well, there is the link of how to apply. At the moment, you can preview that form so that you can start to prepare with your project team that EOI and what those questions look like. So the round opens on the 20th of July. You'll be able to register with Smarter Grants, which is the platform we use, and you can start to complete that form. As mentioned, at any stage throughout this, please contact our Schools Plus team on the number and information provided. We're all here ready to help, and we're happy to support you in putting that expression of interest in. And applications close on the 14th of September, Australian Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you read the guidelines, submit that application, and get it in before the 11th of September. So thank you, everyone, and goodbye.
Thank you.